My fault, guys. That's my bad. I can't even blame this one on YouTube. That was my fault with the mic. All right, we're ready to go on the eve of my vacation. Instead of packing, here I am talking conference realignment once again because one, I figure I might as well get this in, and then hopefully, if I do this now, then everything will die down for a couple of days. Right? That's how this is going to work. So I can enjoy a little getaway to Madison, Wisconsin. I'll be in Big Ten country, so maybe I can get you some boots on the ground reporting from the Big Ten with all this Florida State hullabaloo. And man, there is some. We're going to talk about Florida State. Basically, Florida State and then the Pac-12 situation is what is going on here tonight. Because I tell you what, there's been all this Florida State smoke. We got the Brett McMurphy eyeball tweet that everybody has been wondering about. And now we have a pretty defiant statement from the Board of Trustees chair at Florida State, who did an interview with War Chant, one of the big Florida State fan sites. And Florida State does not seem to be scared about any kind of grant of rights. We shall see what it is that they are trying to cook up here. But it seems like it could get pretty wild. That's kind of the dichotomy that we have right now in Big 12 country. I know everybody is very focused on the Pac-12 TV deal, and today was the day that George was forced at 7 a.m. local time to get on a meeting and present whatever it is that he has. And we have the details now on what he has. Basically, if you've been reading and following along with Jason Scheer, you already know the deal. It's now just been corroborated by guys like Pete Thamel. And I have been glad to see Scheer start to get a little bit of credit from some of the national guys earlier today, namely Brett McMurphy himself. But you've got that going on, which is a big deal, certainly in the college football world and to us. But Florida State could really blow the doors completely off of the college football world and just send realignment into a complete and total tailspin. And it's hard to know just how seriously to take this threat of sorts from Florida State about the action that they may be plotting here. So I don't know. It depends on how, I guess, ballsy you think Florida State actually is and how tricky this whole thing will be to pull off. But we're going to talk a little bit about the comments made by Florida State, in addition to, once again, all those details about the Pac-12 TV deal, the presentation, what Arizona State, and Utah have to be thinking right now. If you saw the video that I put out yesterday, Pete Thamel really indicated that it's probably more of a package deal with those three. There's been some more reporting today. I know like Brandon Marcello used the phrasing like none of those schools individually wants to be seen as the linchpin and what is really going to blow up the league. So that has changed. I would say the tenor has changed a little bit from Arizona acting alone and thinking, hey, this could very well just be Colorado, Arizona. Pac-12 carries on with all of that. It seemingly has turned into more of those three wanting to band together and do either one thing or another. And I don't think a decision is going to be made very soon. I don't think it will be like an imminent decision from everybody, especially now that it seems like they are becoming a little bit more intertwined. But I'll give you some more of that analysis as we work through a lot of what is going on right now. I do see someone pointing out, yes, I'm aware that the board in Arizona is meeting right now. Obviously, they control they don't control the fates, but they oversee Arizona and Arizona State. The regions had like 30 seconds of a live stream going before they went into executive session, which, I mean, we all know what it is exactly that they're talking about right now. So, yeah, that is happening. But again, to get an official vote or I know most of you are clued into this at this point, but to get an official vote, you're not going to have that happen in a closed session. That would have to be an open deal. So, with that, you guys know if you've been here before how this works. Our web already on top of it here. But if you want to be a part of the chat, which may not be quite as packed as it has been the last couple of nights, but still I would imagine will be fairly packed here tonight. We're already at almost 250 people in here. I can't keep up with it. You guys have been watching lately. Know that full well. So if you want to be a part of the chat tonight, you want your voice to be heard, click the $ below the chat box where it says chat. And that is how you get your question or comment on the show. It is also a way to support the channel, support the work that I'm doing, bringing you wall-to-wall realignment coverage and taking the perspective of the Big 12 here, bringing you Big 12 content week in, week out. You can support the channel by clicking the $sign below the chat box where it says chat in order to do that. And hey, now the Venmo is back up and running. And thank you to Michael. Shout out to my guy, Michael, who hit me up on Venmo before the show, said he wasn't going to be able to catch it live, but he will watch later. So thank you for that, Michael. Much appreciated, my friend. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support that way. Also, if you'd like the video, I would really appreciate that. Very easy, one click, totally free. Just a like to the video would help me as well. And if you leave a comment either before, during, or after in the comment section of the video, all of that helps as well. Okay, our web launching us in the right direction says, looks like the Pac got a rotten apple. Apple is the mystery streamer that is being involved here with the Pac-12 situation. We've now had that. I mean, Jason Scheer had that very early on in this process, and then Pete Thamel has come along and since corroborated it. So pretty safe to say that Apple is the main part of the presentation that was given by George Kliavkoff today. I'll read you from the Thamel article, but I believe he said that there were multiple options that are technically there, but the one that's gaining the most traction right now is this Apple option. It is very complicated. MHV3ER is somebody that has actually been a little bit vindicated because he has said for a while now, I believe it was he that said this, Greg Flugar, I think did as well, that it would be a complicated deal. And it certainly is complicated. And thus there's going to be a lot of mulling over this decision coming up from the four corner schools, I guess the three corner schools that are left, and what it is exactly that they are going to do. So let's dive into it. And I see James says, based on the deal incentives, I appreciate your support, James. Based on the deal incentives, the PAC schools will be committed capitalists. Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to Greg Flugar, the Peek Around the Corner channel earlier tonight, which was a great show. And if you really want the in-depth scuttlebutt on Florida State, that is a great place to be. But as far as what the incentives are going to do to this deal and how tied to that the Pac-12 would be if they take this, there was a comment made by somebody like they're basically turning everybody in the Pac-12, like players, coaches, administrators alike, into commission salesmen. Like they will have to produce subscriptions. They're going to have to get subs to this thing to make the deal work in any kind of a usable fashion for them. So that is going to be something to monitor to see how that goes. If that is something palatable enough for the Pac-12, I certainly would not think that it is. But the fact that I will say, like as bullish as I have been on Arizona to the Big 12 for sure, and potentially the Four Corners or multiple other schools from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, this Band of Brothers thing, like those three getting together and trying to band together, gives me a little bit more pause. It makes me think that this is probably going to be a long decision with everybody trying to mull it over. Here's a little bit of a recap today. Ross Dellinger from not Sports Illustrated anymore, now Yahoo. Ross Dellinger was the first that I saw to put out the report from the meeting today. He said Pac-12 presidents and ADs, as expected, met this morning and were presented with details of a TV deal. Sources confirmed to Yahoo Sports. Executives left the hour-long meeting with no agreement, but with the expectation of eventually concluding a deal. Another meeting is planned soon. So when that one first came out, I think there were some heads turned. All right, it says no agreement, but the expectation of eventually concluding a deal. That does, that's not what Big 12 country exactly wanted to hear. You wanted to hear like, hey, the deal was terrible. Nobody liked it. There's a lot of consternation. Instead, this was more like the same sort of message that we've gotten the whole time. But that's also kind of the point here, right? If this were a deal that were worth presenting and were something that George Kliavkoff was very excited about, you would have seen details about it leaked. You would have seen maybe not a decision, but something like, hey, decision coming soon. Instead, it was much, much, much more up in the air. So that statement was almost kind of perfect because it just represents what this whole situation has been for the Pac-12 the entire time. Here's what Jason Scheer had to say. Jason Scheer, once again, runs the Arizona 24/7 site, Wildcat Authority. He said George Kliavkoff has asked the conference for another meeting and more time after presenting the initial deal today. Remains to be seen what will happen next, but there will be discussions at tonight's Arizona Board of Regents meeting. No official decision is expected tonight. So a little bit different take. And even we're going to get into some of what the Pac-12 reaction was to all of this, but it has been wildly fascinating, as you might imagine, the difference between John Canzano and everybody else. Because John Wilner quote tweets Pete Thamel, who put out his summation of what happened in the meeting. And Wilner says, no, ESPN would be problematic for both game visibility and brand promotion. And then said, part of the calculation for presidents is how this deal sets up the conference for the next contract cycle. Does aligning with Apple now help for the 2030s? So that's kind of a tepid response from John Wilner, right? I mean, that's not overwhelmingly, glowingly positive. Stuart Mandel. I mean, how many of you guys have taken some shots at Stuart Mandel over this entire conference realignment saga? Stuart Mandel said Larry Scott sold the schools on the Pac-12 network based on how much revenue they could hit, based on low, medium, high subscriber projections. It turned out to be below low. Hard to imagine the schools making another risky bet on a newish platform. They're basically saying, like, look, you tried this once with the Pac-12 network, and it was dreadfully bad, below the worst projections for Larry Scott. It is a large part of what has landed the conference in the mess that they are in right now. So it's hard to imagine that they would take a chance on something very, very similar here. That's Stuart Mandel, right? I mean, that's the guy that within the last couple of years, what was the tweet? And not only the picking at the dead carcass of the Big 12 tweet, but another one like, I don't understand why Big 12 schools think that they have the better, the more attractive entity to be selling here, right? We've just gotten over and over Stuart Mandel being the guy that has been very much more of a Pac-12 slant, right? And that's him throwing a lot of cold water on what this deal was. Now let's contrast that with our good friend John Canzano, okay? John Canzano said this, Pac-12 board meeting was, quote, positive, per a source. The quote I got included the phrase, quote, excited and aligned. Why hold another meeting? Some members of the Pac-12 CEO group need to get final approval. More soon. I mean, I guess that's one way to frame it, right? They need to get final approval. Yeah, maybe because the deal's not very good. They need to think about if they even want to go down that road of trying to get final approval on something like that. It has just become more and more clear. Like John Canzano, he's talking to Kirk Schultz. Like Kirk Schultz is giving him a quote here, or perhaps somebody involved at Oregon State. And it behooves them to say that everybody's excited and aligned and it was all positive. It has been very much more mixed reviews from everybody else, and certainly mixed reviews on the thoughts of what the deal is that was actually presented. So it's just, I know I should not spend as much time on this as I am going to right now, but it is just infuriating because so often he has pulled that like journalistic integrity card and, hey, 12 and on, and putting everybody down who's just making observations on Big 12 Twitter about the situation and claiming that he is from this perch atop the mountain of journalism. And like, dude, I mean, screw off with that. Like, you're clearly just taking quotes from those who have the most vested interest in the Pac-12 surviving and just spewing them out there. And today was about the most blatant example that we've seen of that. So spare me the whole pompous routine from Mr. Canzano on that, man. It's pretty embarrassing. Regardless of what winds up happening here, that's a pretty embarrassing characterization of what happened based on what everybody else has said. Okay. Let me get to a couple donations here. James, I appreciate your support. Actually, James, I think I already got to this. Based on the deal incentives, the PAC schools will be committed capitalists. Yes. So the details of the deal, I guess I didn't go specifically into that. Let me give you that just to respond to James's comment there. Pete Thamel said this. While several options were presented, the Apple streaming deal emerged as the likely leader at this point, bringing some clarity to a lengthy process that frustrated many within the league and ultimately played a role in Colorado's decision. There are not expected to be any imminent decisions on whether this TV deal is enough to appease Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. The Arizona Board of Regents is scheduled to meet later Tuesday. No decision expected in the meeting. Okay, according to sources, the first year of what's expected to be a relatively short-term contract with Apple would start in 2024-25 and begin relatively low relative to the league's hopes. But the deal, sources said, would incrementally improve and potentially be competitive with its peers at the Big 12 and the ACC down the road, provided certain subscription numbers are met. After the meeting Tuesday morning, there remained ambiguity about the potential value of the Pac-12 deal because of the unknown variance of subscriptions. Again, remember, a lot of these Pac-12 schools are in a pretty tough spot financially, particularly like Washington State, in a difficult spot financially. Okay, so if you're saying, hey, here's the deal, we have to get enough subscriptions to pump this number up to something that will actually be close to the Big 12's number, that becomes pretty treacherous. Like, you need to plan. These schools have to budget. Like, there are things that they need to do, like processes that are in place here, and not actually having a specific number that you know you're going to hit, that you will be guaranteed to hit every single year, is very problematic. So that is a part that will make this very, very difficult. Also, I mean, depending on who you ask, it's hard, and nobody seems to know specifically, but depending on who you ask, someone tell you that they're pretty unrealistic escalators to be hitting. to actually get up to where the Big 12 is at $31.7 million. But this goes back to one of the theories we've had for a long time, that the deal was there, but it would not be something great. And if it is, it would come out with the language like, hey, it could be up to X amount per school per year, but only if you're hitting certain benchmarks of subscribers that would be out of reach, and that's how the Pac-12 would try to market it here. I did think this note was pretty pertinent. It says, sources familiar with the negotiations told ESPN, the Pac-12 is in a better position now than it was a month and a half ago to sell digital subscriptions thanks to changes in the media landscape. So that part, Pete Thamel is corroborating basically what George Kliavkoff said, although I think he was a bit heavy-handed with it, saying that the longer we wait, the better it gets. That's, I would think, a version of what he was trying to say, right? So longer we wait, the better it gets. It's better now than it was a month and a half ago to sell digital subscriptions thanks to the media landscape starting to shift and change a little bit, basically coming back to earth after being well below it for a while there. John Wilner has reported a similar sort of line in some of the stuff that we've read from him lately. So, you do need to give him credit on that. Pete Thamel is now coming around and saying that as well. So there's your framework. There's your framework of the Pac-12 deal, what we have right now. Eric, what's up, Eric? Eric says the Pac-9 is now a zombie conference. Where'd you go, Eric? Pac-9 is now a zombie conference. It is only a matter of time before the collapse. I mean, it still seems that way, but I mean, I feel like there's enough ambiguity right now, and I've seen enough of this, hey, we're all going to band together sort of deal from the four corner schools, and I know where Arizona State and Utah's heads have been for a long time, that does give me some pause. I truly, seems like Robert Robbins does not want to be that guy that would have, I mean, quote unquote, blood on his hands, although any narrative that tries to really spin Arizona as the boogeyman or the bad guy in all of this is ridiculous, because there are a million things that you can blame for this ahead of Arizona. Namely, if you're going to go blame schools, I mean, this is USC's fault. You can't, USC, and then Colorado left before that. We need to chill with hey, Arizona would be the one to really drive down the Pac-12 here. They would be the one to deliver the crushing blow. No, the crushing blow was delivered by USC. And the presidents, really, if we want to get to it, the presidents are the reason that you were even in the room to be hit in the first place, because of dreadful leadership from presidents for a very long time. But hey, I can understand that opinion, Eric. I mean, I still would think it's more likely than not that you get at least Arizona, but it may become a bit more tricky. Calico, what's up, Calico? Calico says, things are moving on the edge of my seat right now. Hey, appreciate you, Calico. Thank you for being here. You should be on the edge of your seat, not just because of what is happening in the Pac-12, but because of what may be happening with Florida State and the Big Ten being the rumor right now for Florida State, which also, I mean, kind of opens the door now to, I can understand why we had the line, whose story was it yesterday? I can't remember if that was Thamel's or not, but one of the most recent reports we read said that Oregon and Washington not interested in the Big 12 any further. I would think if Florida State is really trying to pull off whatever it is that they're trying to pull off, and that's going to open the Big 10 back up to expansion, that's probably where Oregon and Washington's minds have gone at this point. And you can't blame them. If there is any opening there, now is the time. I mean, I would highly encourage Oregon and Washington to do that. Now is the time. If there is any opening there, any inkling that the Big Ten is going to open that door back up, you go try to barge your way in there right now. Cosmos Crew. This is a great one, Cosmos Crew. I appreciate you. Oh, also the first chat from Cosmos Crew. Thank you for the support, and thank you for being here on the channel tonight. Cosmos Crew says, looks like the Pac-9 drove down the lane and missed their layup. There you go, R-Web. There's your layup reference, first layup reference of the broadcast today. Looks like the Pac-9 drove down the lane and missed their layup. Indeed, they did. I pulled some of those receipts earlier today. Let me see if I can go find those real quick, because now we actually have legitimate details on what this deal is, basically, and it certainly was not a layup to beat the Big 12's number, right? Again, no matter whether or not the four corner schools stay, this deal was not a layup to beat the Big 12's figure. Here is one of the quotes from a Canzano article. One individual in the room for the Pac-12's negotiations told me recently that getting within range of the Big 12 figure is a, quote, layup. And so there's growing confidence that the Pac-12 will eclipse it. Where's that growing confidence now, boys? Where is that glowing confidence now? Growing confidence. There was also, hey, how about this? This was a receipt I pulled, my own tweet. But John Wilner on Paul Feinbaum late last week. I continue to talk to people who are in the sports media space and not affiliated with the Pac-12 and Big 12. And the consensus is that there's a deal out there for the Pac-12 to be had, and it would be comparable to the Big 12's valuation, or comparable to the Big 12's valuation. Does not seem like that is the case. He also would go on to say probably wouldn't have the same visibility of the Big 12, and it is not even close on that front with an Apple deal that would be primarily streaming. But beyond that, it also does not seem to be like legitimately, at least tangibly there, money-wise, anywhere close to what the Big 12 is. We have this. John Canzano, source says, we will beat the Big 12's number. That was on June 9th. That was less than 2 months ago. Quote from a source in John Canzano's article. We will beat the Big 12's number. Where you at, Kirk? Where you at, Kirk? You're not beating the Big 12's number, Kirk. Not looking good for you, my friend. I'm sorry. Hope you're having a good day on the Palouse. Graham Canyon. What's up, Graham Canyon? Graham Canyon in here. He says, now I want to see those deals from 3, 6, and 9 months ago that good old Georgie mentioned. Would be very interesting. I would also like to know what the other couple are that supposedly have been kicked around in these meetings. I mean, basically, it seems pretty clear what happened here. Kliavkoff had been sitting on some of these deals that were not satisfactory, that were about what most were projecting, most like on the Big 12 side, more the gloom and doom side for the Pac-12 have been projecting. And Kliavkoff did not want to make that official presentation because he knew it probably wasn't good enough. And now with the dire straits that everybody's in, with Colorado leaving, extra pressure being applied, Arizona being in this really difficult position, they're saying, like, George, you got to give us something. So he has to present what he has. And what he has is not a great deal. I think we can all agree on that, too. I think that's really a consensus here. Like, this is not a great deal on paper for the Pac-12. Maybe it's not a total disaster, but it is not a great deal. Are you willing to go sacrifice money, turn yourself into a glorified salesman to try and be selling subscriptions to Apple TV and take off with that and hope that, like John Wilner says, that is the correct move or a good move or at least a decent enough move for your next TV contract to be getting in bed with Apple right now? That's what a lot of this would hinge on for the Pac-12 here at this moment. Robert, what's up, Robert? Robert says, today is your mark day. AZ is so coming to the Big 12. I would still lean yes, but I have more trepidation about it. And I'll just reiterate once again, it is because of the narrative that we've seen starting to form that it would be those three all operating in concert, because I know what Arizona State and Utah have been about throughout this whole thing. But I think every day, basically, to go back to that a little bit, Robert, every day has been your mark day since Colorado officially made the move to come to the Big 12. It has definitely been celebration of your mark. But very quickly, it also turns to, like, you got more work to do, because I know a lot of us will not be all that thrilled if you have to go to UConn. And that's why, the stakes feel pretty high here, because I will admit, the closer we get to UConn, like, not just becoming an idea and potentially becoming a reality, I do have trepidations about it, man. I definitely have some trepidations about UConn being that team. And not that this really ultimately matters that much, but you have gone through this entire media cycle now where you have been soaking up the love, and everybody thought you really have the Pac-12 destabilized. You got them on the ropes. Now's the time to go capitalize. And it would be a bit of a PR hit if it doesn't happen and then you go add UConn. Like, you would get made fun of for that. There would be snarky jokes. Listen, I've seen what Reddit College Football has been tweeting for the last 72 hours or a week, I guess, really, about the Pac-12. You would get some jokes for that, for sure. You would get some jokes for that. Joe, what's up, Joe? Appreciate you, Joe. Thank you. Joe Khatib here once again. Says, why doesn't the Pac just make a deal with Amway? That is what this deal looks like. There have been a lot of really good jokes, man. A lot of really good jokes. I particularly appreciated my own, which was Entertainment 720 for all you Parks and Rec fans out there. Hey, the Pac-12 is getting in bed with Entertainment 720. Jean Ralphio and Aziz. What is Aziz's name in Parks and Rec? I can't remember. Anyway, Tom, right? Tom. So anyway, yes, you can make plenty of jokes about it. Just add that one to the list. Add that one to the list from Joe. It does not look great. I know you can tell even just like by Arizona fans' general reaction, they did not seem to be very thrilled with what was presented and not very thrilled with the idea that this wasn't just an immediate rejection from Arizona. And even on that front, like, even if that is where Arizona's heart truly is and this is going to get done and it's going to be a move to the Big 12. I can understand why it takes some time and why it's not just an immediate rejection. I think it's very easy for us to say that don't have relationships with these people, don't understand fully the gravity that is in your hands, like the life of a conference that has been around for a very long time could legitimately die if you make a decision one way or the other. That's a lot. That's a lot. So I will extend a little bit of empathy there, even if I do think like this really should ultimately be a pretty easy decision. I think if it's in the best interest of Arizona and honestly Arizona State and Utah. But it's clear that they're starting from a place, something I have said over and over again. They're starting from a place of not wanting to go. Not only does nobody want to move, but Utah has very good reason to want to stay in a league that definitely has a lot of tradition that they really wanted to be in for a long time. They got in and now they are winning on a fairly regular basis. They have plenty of reason to want to stay there. I can understand, again, why that becomes a difficult decision. I mean, Arizona State, I guess I'll just throw Arizona State under the bus and say they just have dreadful leadership, terrible leadership. And just, I mean, look, Arizona State should be so much better athletically than what they are, what they actually produce there. I think Sleeping Giant is fair for them based on the market that they are in and the resources that they have, the massive student body that they have. Like they have so much going for them, but just perennially underachieving. And I think, it starts from the top down. Leadership, definitely fair to be questioned there. Jim, what's up, Jim? Jim says, Jim Bagley, thank you for being here. Jim says, the Pac-9 schools need to act with urgency if they want to get out. There will be competition within them to get into the Big 12. Potentially, I don't know. It feels to me now like it's turned much more into like all three coming or not, and Oregon and Washington pining for the Big 10 while Florida State tries to pull off the massive like coup of the century to somehow get out of the ACC and blow the ACC up. So it feels to me like the landscape has thinned out a little bit, and this is going to truly be all or nothing. Maybe not. That's probably a little bit strong, but there is a decent chance it would be all or nothing. And then Oregon and Washington is probably off the table at this point for the Big 12. And I mean, we've seen that reflected in a couple of reports now that Oregon and Washington seemingly are now out on Big 12 consideration. Making sure I'm not missing anything here from Jim. We go to Darth Bowser. What's up, Darth Bowser? Darth Bowser, Cowboys fan. I like that. Hey, how about my guy Deuce Vaughn? I don't really like the Cowboys, but I like it because it gives me a chance to talk about Deuce Vaughn. I've been watching videos of Deuce Vaughn in training camp on Twitter. Get a good one there, Darth Bowser. First super chat from Darth Bowser. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. What's the FSU news other than Scoop City? Go Big 12. Okay, let me table that for 1 second, Darth Bowser. I'm gonna get through the rest of these donations, then we can start to move on a little bit to the Florida State quotes that came from their Board of Trustees chair. Ethan Montgomery, another first-time super chatter. Thank you, Ethan. Not seeing a message attached there, but I appreciate your support, and thank you for being here tonight. I see Ethan did add something later on here. It says, I hope Washington realizes that Stanford would add just as much value to the Big Ten and is probably more desirable. Appreciate the coverage. I don't know, man. I mean, I think Washington may be more valuable than Oregon to the Big Ten, actually, in all of this. And Stanford, I don't know that Stanford really has a place in major Power 5 football the way the rules have changed with their academic requirements. Like, that is not a school that is set up to do well in an NIL and transfer portal sort of world. So I would probably disagree with you there, but you are welcome to your own opinion. You are welcome to your own opinion. Hale, what's up, Hale? Hale Samuelson, thank you for being here. Hale is an Arizona fan. All right, I like this. So we're getting some Arizona fan perspective. Hale says, I'm an Arizona fan. If we stay, I will be beyond upset. There is zero reason to stay in the Pac-12. Tradition out the window with SC and UCLA gone. Get out. Completely understand that perspective if you are an Arizona fan right now. I would be looking at it saying, like, one, I don't trust the guy leading the charge. I don't trust the guy calling the shots right now in Kliavkoff based on the way this process has gone. It's clear now that the hubris of Pac-12 presidents for a long time has really stymied the conference, and everything seems to be coming to a head right now. And I don't think there's a lot of reason to hope or think that would really change. And again, with some of the stuff brewing down south and in the Southeast, it just doesn't feel like being in the Pac-12 is going to be a great place to be long-term for all of this. And the Big 12, I am biased, sure, but the Big 12 seems to be a better place to be in, a better landing spot as of right now. So I hear you, and I understand why Arizona fans certainly think that and are ready to get out. David, what's up? David, our Iowa State fan here. Boy, I wondered if I would get through this chat without mentioning Hunter Deckers, which would be a huge story, by the way, overshadowed, kind of a nice news dump for Hunter Deckers in the shadow of realignment right now. But Hunter Deckers, Iowa State quarterback, it'd been long rumored that he was involved in this gambling investigation going on within the Iowa and Iowa State football programs. And he may be done. He's at risk of losing his eligibility forever for betting on, not only betting on games, but betting on an Iowa State game in 2021. I believe they said it was the Oklahoma State game that was in question in 2021. And then there's also a potential criminal charge of like tampering with the investigation, allegedly, in the report that I first saw from Travis Hines. So yeah, that's not good. And then Hunter Deckers' attorney came out with a statement later, and this is what David is referring to. He says, Deckers just informed the team he won't be attending fall camp to focus on his studies and legal case. Not good for my clones. Back to realignment. It is not good for your clones. That offense was already a freaking mess last year. I know Nathan Shieldhouse provides some optimism this year as the offensive coordinator, and you have a great young quarterback coming in. It's Cole, right? Is it JJ Cole? I know he's very highly regarded, very similar to Avery Johnson, who's coming into K-State this year, that I am immensely excited about. But boy, that'd be a heck of a way to throw him into the fire already if he's going to be the dude. So I don't know what other option is there for Iowa State at quarterback. I'm sure there is somebody else, and I'm sure Iowa State has been preparing for this, knowing much more behind the scenes. But boy, not good. Not good. I do feel for you on that, David. And I would be careful. I certainly myself am going to be careful to throw any shots or make a lot of fun of that situation, because that could be coming for about anybody now, the way that sports betting is taking over all over the place. And I'll be honest. I mean, look, it seems like Deckers did not play this very well, and that this was a pretty dumb decision that he made. Multiple decisions that he made that were pretty dumb. But I do have some level of empathy and sympathy for the fact that, I mean, we're throwing sports gambling everywhere, freaking everywhere now. And leagues are getting in bed with it, and people are trying to make their money off of it and profit off of it. And we're throwing it around all over the place, and then telling the athletes like, hey, but no, you can't get anywhere near this. We're a little hypocritical with some of that. Okay. I understand integrity of the game. I get it. I mean, you can spare me those arguments, but I mean, it is everywhere, dude. And I mean, look, admittedly, I'm not really like a sports gambling guy, so it elicits some eye rolls from me from time to time. I don't really have a huge issue with it, but just it's so oversaturated and everywhere. And that's why, then I'm like, okay. And then we're going to come just completely crush kids for doing it. I get you can't do it on a game you're playing in. That's a very, very bad move. But I guess the general point in a vacuum is I do have some level of empathy and sympathy for what is going on with that. Anyway, R-Web, what's up, R-Web? R-Web, Arizona State and Texas, Spider-Man gif. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, Arizona State would be like Texas light, but yes, you are correct. I mean, I guess if we're comparing like Phoenix and Austin, that really it. Phoenix being a bigger market there, maybe I shouldn't say that they would be like Texas light. I guess in terms of like the tradition and prestige and brand value historically that goes along with that. And I mean, shoot, Texas won a national championship with Vince Young in 2005. Arizona State has not enjoyed that level of success here recently, but yes, lots of similarities there. Lots of similarities. That's a pretty good comp. Starter 179. What's up, Starter 179? Kurtz, give your best percentage guess. Arizona joins within 6 months. What did I see? I saw somebody pointed out when I had said 40% chance on Colorado that there was like an article about like, hey, this is the smartest way to guess when someone tries to pin you down on something. You say 40%, so you can be like, hey, I didn't say it was going to happen, but I did feel like there was a pretty good chance of it. I might go the opposite way on this and go like, 60-40, 65-35, something like that right now. Maybe 70-30. I also like that one, like a 70-30. Somewhere between there, 60 to 70%, something like that. McMuffin, what's up, McMuffin? Hey, thank you, McMuffin, for the reminder. Hit that like button, folks. We've got almost 950 people here in the chat and only 181 likes. It just takes one click. It is totally free. Easy way to support the channel. Easy way to get involved here tonight. Also, leave a comment in the comment section before, during, or after. That is also much appreciated and helps with the almighty algorithm. So thank you, McMuffin. I trust that you have liked the video yourself, and I appreciate you for doing that, and I appreciate you for being here in the chat tonight. Get past McMuffin. I did. Here's Carl. What's up, Carl? Carl, new follower and BYU fan here. Well, thank you, Carl. Appreciate you being here. Been loving your content. Very excited, but not too optimistic about our first season. Would be over the moon with 6-6. As for realignment, anyone but Utah. Yeah. Yeah, I think you share the same sentiment with a lot of folks. I mean, look, Utah football would be good and exciting for the league. I mean, I will not deny that. The problem here has always been with like the over-the-top arrogance that doesn't match the achievement level of the Utah football program or what the Utah brand is. But that doesn't mean that they're not a very good football program right now. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't love to watch the Holy War and see them compete in the conference. So, look, I'll come around to it and be okay if they're in the league. But I did have to laugh when a Utah fan tweeted at me like, okay, hello, conference mate today, and gave him the old Larry David gif where it's kind of like, okay, that's where I'm at on the Utah thing right now. But as a BYU fan, I can only imagine. I get it, man. I get it. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thomas, what's up, Thomas? Thomas Gilbreth in the house. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of the channel. Thomas says, if Arizona State, and Utah do join, what do you think the divisions would look like for the Big 12 moving forward? I've seen like some discussion about this here lately that like I don't know that divisions and pods are really going to be much of a thing. I think the future of this looks much more just like protected rivals. So having like 3 protected rivals per year and then rotating the schedule outside of that. So I won't even really go down that road because I know that was a really popular, like in vogue thing for a long time, but I don't really foresee the future of this being in divisions or pods. So I think that might be an idea that we kind of need to move away from. I understand why people like them. It's kind of fun to try and like draw those up and see, what mixes and matches you could throw together there. And we obviously used to do the division thing in the Big 12, for instance, and have a Big 12 champion based on that. But I don't think that that's really where this would be headed. Could be wrong, but I think you're looking at more like the better discussion would be, hey, who are my school's protected rivals going to be if and when we get there? Eric, what's up, Eric? Eric says, today I saw an old clip of the Big 12 on TBS. Those K-State fans were fired up to beat USC. Thank you for that memory, Eric. I was at that game, 2002, Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I would have been 13 years old. Yeah, I think I would have just turned 13 at that game, 2002. I was actually in the K-State student section for that game. I don't remember how that happened because we had season tickets, but I was in the student section. Great game. L. Roberson comes in for Mark Dunn. Beats Carson Palmer and USC. That was a USC team that won the Orange Bowl that year, and had some really good players. Man, Sultan McCullough was out there with Carson Palmer. Really good game for K-State. They won 27-20, and I actually missed the old TBS broadcast days. Another clip I saw today was K-State pick-sixing Seneca Wallace on back-to-back drives, playing a ranked Iowa State team and winning 52-7. I believe was the final score in that one. Sorry, Clone fans. But I did see that one come up today with the old TBS broadcast being brought up. So that was a nice little realignment byproduct. I was here for that. Where you at? R-Web. What's up, R-Web? R-Web says, think of pods as protected rivals for scheduling. Yeah, okay. I mean, and I guess maybe it's semantics. Maybe it would kind of end up being semantics as to whether or not, like I would say, think of protected rivals as pods for scheduling. And then rotate out everything else. But yeah, tomato, I suppose. So yeah. George, what's up, George? Thank you, George, for super chat from George. I don't see a question or comment here, but thank you, George. Chuck, I see your demand. Chuck, you know what? I will wait. Starter 179. I'm sorry. But I'm going to get the Florida State blurb in here because the specific quotes on Florida State, I've given you a general outline here of what's going on, but I'll give you the specifics on Florida State because I have waited too long for that. I'm sorry, Starter 179. Please accept my apologies here on having you wait for just a minute. Here is what happened. So War Chant, big Florida State fan site. My perception is one of the more powerful, like just fan sites in general in the college football ethos. they did an interview with the Board of Trustees chair at Florida State. And here are some quotes. Boy, these are some quotes. He said, quote, "I wish I could tell everyone what we're working on right now." He also said, quote, "I can tell you that I'm very confident in where we'll be and that we'll be in a good place." And then how about this one? This is the real bombshell from Florida State. Quote, "Grant of rights is not what will keep us from taking action." I repeat, the Florida State Board of Trustees chair says grant of rights is not what will keep us from taking action. It's a hell of a quote, man. That is a strong quote because obviously everyone's been talking about that ad nauseum. The ACC tied together through 2036 because of the grant of rights. The Magnificent Seven group of schools parsed through it. They brought lawyers to parse through it and didn't really come up with a good way to get out of it. But Florida State apparently thinks they've got something cooked up. I know in Greg Pflugar's chat earlier tonight, you should all go watch that, peek around the corner. He got way down into the weeds on this. And somebody had said that Chris Lowe, an ESPN reporter, said something about, I believe it was it North Carolina and Miami with the SEC, that Sankey was very interested in North Carolina and Miami. I believe I got the two schools right. Virginia, I know, is another one that is talked about a lot in there that would be pretty sought after. But what we're talking about there is like, I mean, if Florida State is really going to do this thing and somehow jam their way into the Big Ten, which is what some of the noise and smoke has been lately. And again, that is very much just like rumor mill smoke. But if that were to happen, and then the SEC, I mean, the SEC would have to respond. Like if the Big Ten were going to go make a move of that magnitude, the SEC would have to respond. And the other piece of the puzzle here is we saw the report saying yesterday, Oregon, Washington, Big 12, not going to work for them. You know that they're pining for the Big Ten. And is Florida State opening some sort of a door there where then the discussion comes back open to, all right, Colorado's already started the bleeding in the Pac-12. Maybe we go actually take Oregon and Washington here and grab Florida State with them and throw somebody else in and try. Like that's the road that this would be leading down. It would appear if Florida State really is going to be as brash as to get this done by, and again, 2 weeks from today, August 15th, that is the deadline for if you're going to put in your notice to be out for the 2024-25 season. Notice needs to be in by August 15th. So that's why that date has been thrown out there as one to really watch. And I read it to you yesterday from Pete Thamel's article. He's now even referenced that date and some of the Florida State scuttlebutt. So this is bubbled up to the surface a little bit beyond just like pure rumor mill sort of stuff. Brett McMurphy, I don't know if it is totally connected to this or not. I read you a lot of tweets here on the show. The only way I can read you this is two eyeballs. He just put out the two eyeball emoji earlier today, or was that yesterday? It was either today or last night. Got everybody talking. To quote, what Will Ferrell movie is that? No, is that Blades of Glory, where it's like no one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going. That is exactly what Brett McMurphy was going for and successfully achieved with that one. No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going. And with all these rumors being thrown around right now, that is definitely something that just adds a little bit of gasoline onto that fire that Florida State seems to be bringing. I mean, look, we've known this whole time. Florida State is the most motivated out of anybody in the ACC to get out of their current situation. They did not seem content to just sit around and wait while their rivals in the SEC and Big Ten start making $20, $30, $40 million more per year than they do with these TV contracts. They are not going to let their brand be left behind. I don't know exactly what it is that they're trying to have cooked up here, but it could be something pretty major. And it's just hard to know if this is a lot of huffing and puffing or if there is real tangible substance to this. One, in terms of whether or not Florida State would have the guts to go ahead and do it. And then two, in terms of how well that would actually hold up. I'm sure there would be lawsuits that would follow. And then how long are you going to be stuck and tied up in court and legal proceedings, figuring all of that out? How would that work with your next home, whatever your next conference would be? I don't know, man. It's a fascinating situation, but that could really open up the floodgates on just escalating the race to get to like 20 or 20 plus teams for the Big Ten and the SEC. That is the move that could really break the dam. I mean, I know a lot of the narrative is focused around Robert Robbins in Arizona right now, most powerful man in college sports. You could really do a lot. to open up the landscape of all of this. But really, it's Florida State. If Florida State is going to be gutsy enough to go try this and just try to get out and do it right freaking now, that could absolutely open up some floodgates on what could be happening in college football. So, Chuck, I hope that satisfies you, my man. That is the Florida State info that we have, the quotes anyway. Grant of rights is not what will keep us from taking action. That is from the Florida State Board of Trustees chair. Says, we'll be in a good place. I wish I could tell everyone what we're working on right now. Big time quotes. Big time quotes there. Certainly need to pay attention. Okay, Starter 179. We are back to you, my friend. Starter 179 says, been to all Big 12 schools and most Pac-12. Pac-12 school facilities are very behind. Big 12 has at least a 10-year head start on facilities. It's concerning. Well, a lot more buy-in from Big 12 schools, a lot more attention being paid to athletics for a lot of the Big 12 schools to the Pac-12 schools. So that does not shock me. The only real experience I've had on the Pac-12 to speak of, I'm trying to think. I mean, if we're still considering Colorado Pac-12, I've definitely been to Boulder a couple times. And honestly, Folsom Field is a cool venue, but it's getting at least now. I haven't been there since 2010. Okay, I was there in 08 and 2010, but the press box getting a little dingy by that point. The stadium could use an upgrade. Could use a little bit of a facelift. They've probably done something to it since then that I'm just being a little bit unfair in my judgment of it. I guess I did. I also broadcasted a game with student radio from the Rose Bowl when K-State played UCLA in 2009. I'll be honest, I don't really remember a whole lot of what that was, but it's the mystique of the Rose Bowl. But it's not exactly the greatest facility in the world. And then I covered a K-State game at Stanford in 2016, and Stanford seemed fine. There were just like 5 people there, and that was a Stanford team with Christian McCaffrey. Like that was a really good Stanford team. Christian McCaffrey, Bryce Love. That was a pretty salty squad, and there was like nobody there. It was like me and the tree. I was still filming video on the sideline in those days. It was just me hanging out with the Stanford tree the whole time. That was about it. Chris, what's up, Chris? Chris says, John, how can schools be expected to join the Pac-12 if they are required to build Power 5 level facilities in all sports with such a small payout? Man, you guys are all over the facilities angle with the Pac-12 here. Well, that would be really tough. I mean, these are the types of questions that Arizona State, and Utah have to be asking themselves right now. If you're Utah, how much is your pride worth compared to being able to do the things that you want to do on that front and not having to worry about being a traveling salesman and sell subscriptions to Apple? Do you really want that life just because you don't want to join the same conference as BYU and because you've really stuck your neck out for the Pac-12 this whole time and probably put too much faith in your fearless leader, George Kliavkoff? Those are the types of questions that are having to be asked right now. I mean, I feel like I basically already outlined the gist of this. It's, maybe not so much in a facility sense, but you would be definitely missing out on money. You'd be missing out on exposure. It's going to be tougher to recruit. How exactly and why exactly would you do this other than just trying to tie yourself to the same conference for reasons of pride, reasons of who you like, culture, who you want to associate yourself with? I mean, those are really the things that are being molded, I'm sure. Potentially right now, I don't know if that board meeting is still going on, the executive session, the board meeting for the Arizona regions, but if it is, I would think you'd be hearing similar sorts of discussions in there. Will, what's up, Will? Will, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Will Truman. Will says UConn was the worst member of the AAC. Imagine Utah's sense of entitlement combined with Texas's tendency to blame the conference for its failure to compete in it. Okay, that's good insight. UConn was the worst member of the AAC. Imagine Utah's sense of entitlement combined with Texas's tendency to blame the conference for its failure to compete in it. Yeah, UConn is an interesting case because all of the basketball success is just unbelievable. And I'm sure that would make a fan base pretty arrogant and unbearable. It is in some ways some earned arrogance there, but I can see how that would develop. They're also right in ESPN's backyard. That probably increases a bit the sense of entitlement being right there and, fairly close to the New York market. We know that Yormark likes that aspect of it. So did not know that, I can't say that I've had a single interaction that I know of, at least that I am aware of, with a UConn fan at any point in my life. I don't think, anyway. Not that I remember. Cannot remember having an interaction with a UConn fan. So I have no pulse for what their fan base is. A part of that also is just like Most of my interactions have come with bigger college football fan bases, and we know that that is not what UConn actually is. I like the Sad Husky logo and like the Sad Husky shirts that Homefield sells. Shout out to Homefield. Not a sponsor of the YouTube channel. Could be. Hit me up, Homefield. Could be. But not a sponsor of the YouTube channel as of right now. Cougar Tracks. What's up, Cougar Tracks? Appreciate you being here, Cougar Tracks. Do you think it will end up with 2 or 3 super conferences? Maybe around 20 teams each if it ends up with 3. Great show as always. No Utah. Seems to be a pretty steadfast opinion held by the BYU fans in here. No to Utah. Do I think it'll be 2 or 3 super conferences? Yes. I think you're probably going to wind up with 3, and I think it will be the Big 2 and then a drop off to the other. And that's what I've long said. I think if you're the Big 12, you're positioning yourself to scoop up the 4 corners from the Pac-12 and the leftovers from the ACC and become like a 20-team-ish conference out of all of that. And then the Big 10 and the ACC will take their pick of the litter and everybody will kind of move on from there. And we'd be looking at like the around 60 schools all in those 3 leagues. Yes, I do think that is where we are eventually heading. And the only question is how fast are we going to get there? And are we going to get there a little bit faster than everybody probably thought because of what seems to be happening in Tallahassee right now? So yeah, that is what I would have to say about that. Darth Bowser is back here. What's up, Darth Bowser? Darth Bowser, if the Big 12 were to get to 16, which 3 would you want? Pac, ACC, group of 5. I don't think the ACC will break anytime soon. I imagine the Big 12 sticks at 14 until then. I would just say, again, at least pay some level of attention to the noise about Utah, Arizona State, and Arizona being somewhat united here. That could very well change in Arizona. Maybe Robert Robbins would have the courage to go make the move by himself if nobody else is going to go. But that's not the vibe that we're getting from the reporting that is out there right now. Which 3 would I want? I mean, look, I would like right now. I do want the 4 corners. I would like to deliver that sort of a blow to the Pac-12. I think they make sense. I think there is enough there that I really do like. You're basically talking then like about those 3 versus like Pitt, Louisville, and Duke, maybe Virginia Tech, maybe NC State from the ACC, schools like that. Those aren't doing a ton for me. I'm sure West Virginia fans would be screaming at me like, no, let's go get Pitt and Louisville and let's ride. But I don't have a huge preference as far as that goes. And I think the part of that question, a part of the reason I answered the question that way is because I think that would probably come eventually. Like, I think we seem to be headed there eventually that you would be picking off both probably. So for right now, my focus is definitely on 4 corners, and I would like to go ahead and procure those. But appreciate the question. Appreciate you being here, Darth Bowser. The other part of that, I guess, the group of 5 thing, I think that's been well covered here over the last couple of days here on this channel. Definitely not in the market for any sort of group of 5 ad right now if I'm the Big 12. Don't think that is the way to go, especially with the ACC unrest. I think that's pretty much eliminated at this point. That is probably not something that is going to happen. Okay. Let me take one last check. This is your last warning. If you've got something you want to get in, hit the $ below the chat box where it says chat. Just a couple more minutes left here because I'm going to scroll through the rest of my notes and make sure there's not anything pressing that I'm missing. Here are a couple tweets from Jason Scheer that I feel like are worth mentioning at the end on the tenor of what's going on with Arizona right now and their decision. Scheer did say this: I don't trust any president to make the right decision, but, quote, the deal as it stands now is not good enough for schools with options. And he says that is from a good source. So again, the deal as it stands now is not good enough for schools with options from a good source. That's what Jason Scheer has to say. He also said things can change, but Arizona's administration has gone completely dark in the last 24 hours. It's on complete lockdown. That's something that I guess you could take one way or the other. You could say, hey, complete lockdown because it's a really difficult decision that everybody is mulling over right now. Or you could say, before you make a huge decision like this, if the move is going to be to leave, just shut it down. Don't let it leak out right now. Make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and get it taken care of. Also on 365 today, if you guys watch 365 Sports, I'm sure most of you do, Jason Scheer did go on there and say this, quote, I think we're heading in the direction where Arizona is heavily leaning toward joining the Big 12 right now. So Jason Scheer certainly still feels like that is, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seems like he feels like that is the more likely scenario that Arizona would make the jump and join. But he also did throw in there that note earlier: I don't trust any school president to make the right decision. So perhaps a little bit of uncertainty. If you're looking into like where Robert Robinson's mind has been, he did say this back in May. This was in a Dennis Dodd article. Dennis Dodd writes, CBS Sports has reported that more than 50% of Pac-12 football games could be exclusive to streaming. He got that right. It says, Robbins said he has never heard that discussion within the conference. Quote, this is Robert Robbins, president of Arizona. Quote, no way. You hear talk of it's going to be all streaming. Nobody is going for that. Over 50%? No, I don't think so. I think that's too much. It's okay if it's 50-50. You have to remember, guys our age, people that I went to high school with, aren't going to want to deal with streaming. I don't think it will be more than 50%, but if it ended up 50%, I think it would be okay. But we are West Coast and we have to recruit the whole nation. If the football coaches come back and say, are you out of your mind? We're the final decision makers without a question, but we're going to have to heavily consult our ADs and coaches and all that stuff. And we had a quote from Jed Fish today. That was another thing Jason Shear tweeted out, a quote from Jed Fish today that I may have to go dig that one up, but I think that kind of ties in there where he's saying like, hey, if our coaches are going to say, are you out of our mind? We can't recruit with that sort of exposure. That was kind of the vibe I got from Jed Fish. Arizona football had their media day today. Jason Shear's been a busy man, but that it all kind of ties together here. If we're reading between the lines of like what Arizona leadership has said, it would seem to be that there's no way this deal would really satisfy them. But also I think they're very much feeling the gravity and the pressure of the decision that is actually in front of them now. This is no longer like an idea. This is right there. Like it's put up or shut up time as far as this goes. All right, couple donations to hit before I get out of here. Rob S says time to call out all the BS from Clown, Wilm, and Altalis about Fresno State and others to the Big 12. Nothing but crap from sock puppets. Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. I mean, I called that out when it happened, that seemed ridiculous. It was clearly a narrative Canzano was trying to force down people's throats because of I think because Fresno State was like running their mouth a little bit, that they may have gotten like just a smidge of attention at some point from Yormark covering his bases, doing due diligence on what like second or third tier options would be, and just ran with that thing, man. Just ran with it. Threw it out there like 3 or 4 times in articles. Yes, that was bad. That was among the worst that has come from the Pac-12 propaganda machine throughout this process. Joe Khatib, what's up, Joe Khatib? Appreciate you being here. He says, Jason, right on the money again, for sure, man. I will like that, one up that, whatever you want. He's been very good, very solid throughout. Vindication for him. Even I saw MHVER3, V3, I don't know, whatever. I saw him getting some flowers today because he on some of this stuff has been pretty accurate too, particularly like details of the Apple deal for the Pac-12 here. Neilio, what's up, Neilio? Appreciate you, Neilio. Always love your support. Thank you for being here. Neilio says, great show so far, my friend. Question, would our Cats be able to find a suitable replacement for Arizona on the 24 non-con? Too late? Love the show. Yeah, good problem. I would say good problem to have. Maybe Gene Taylor, K-State's athletic director, would disagree with me on that and say potentially an expensive problem to have to find somebody to fill in last minute on the schedule. Yeah, I think they could. Might not be an easy or fun exercise, but I think they could. I don't really have like great insight into that. I'd have to go parse through all the schedules here on what's going on, but surely there would, especially if there is going to be like more realignment outside of just Arizona, probably some deck chairs get shuffled a little bit with all of that, or you'd have one piece moving here because of 2 teams having to remove themselves from the schedule, and that frees up somebody else. And there's like a domino effect of all of that. There's probably some way to figure it out. I would just say that is a problem that I would be fine taking on. It's not my money or time, effort, or energy that would have to fix that or change that. So easy for me to say, but that is a problem that I would be perfectly fine taking on. But thank you for being here, Neilio. I very much appreciate it. Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael Callahan, what's up, Michael? Thank you for being here. He said, did you see Kuz's corner scenario with Florida State and Colorado going to the SEC without paying a dime? And ESPN would fight losing those 2 to their Fox competitor, the Big Ten. I did not see that. I don't know anything about that scenario, so I wish I could give you like a better reaction to that, but I would need more details on that. I mean, my initial reaction is that seems far-fetched. The Colorado piece, I just don't know why the Big Ten would really be in it for Colorado. The Big 12 has taken a bunch of bullets from some for taking Colorado. There have been some barbs, obviously, about the success or lack thereof that they have had. In fact, someone DM'd me and told me I needed to go listen to Stuart Mandel and Bruce Feldman's podcast because they talked a lot about that. And yeah, I mean, they did get down in the weeds of that some. I didn't think it was quite as bad as what maybe the person who sent it to me did think it was, but they were definitely going in on what Colorado's record had been. And the San Diego State, there was definitely mention of like the San Diego State could be an upgrade for Pac-12, but that's really all it's going to be, blah, 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 blah. There was definitely some of that, but I don't know, Michael. I don't know enough about that scenario. I apologize, but I can't give you like a great answer to that. Cat Fan in Huskerland, aka Daniel Osborne. Thanks for being you. Well, thank you for being you, Daniel. Thank you for being here. Always appreciate your support. Great to see you in the chat here tonight. Glad you're able to make it. Thank you for always being a great supporter of this channel. And speaking of that, if you are here, like my guy Daniel, who has been a longtime subscriber and supporter of this channel, make sure that you are subscribed if you are not. I'm live at least twice a week. It's been much more often lately with everything going on, but typically the routine is Wednesday and Sunday live shows. Throw in some content throughout the week as well, but you're going to get college football, college basketball, conference realignment, all from a Big 12 angle here on this channel. So if that interests you, please consider subscribing. Click that bell so you get alerts and know when I'm dropping content or going live. That is the way to do it. You can chip in and donate and support the channel on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4. The account is back up and running, people. We took care of whoever it was in Yonkers that somehow tried to log into my account, and it's back good to go. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support the channel. Also, if you liked the video on your way out the door, I would appreciate that. If you have not, please like the channel. And I think that is pretty much it. I see Jeremy says, John, how in the heck are you the only freaking live stream on YouTube who doesn't know how to put the super chats on the damn screen? Come on, use some of that super chat dollars to upgrade your game. Boy, very demanding, Jeremy. You know, Jeremy, you don't have to be here. That is one thing I would tell you. You do not have to be here. I am trying to do what I can to be on the live stream for you. I've done like 4 live streams in the last like 5 or 6 days. So Jeremy, you know, I've been subscribed patiently to you. Jeremy, here's, you know, kindly, this is going to be tired me here at the end of this. Kindly suck it. Okay. I will try to get to it at some point, but I got a busy life, my friend, and it seems to be working out pretty well because there are a lot of people that have been in here. So kindly, I bid you adieu on that note, everybody. Spread the word. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is that you are on, make sure you spread the word to all your friends and family. Channel has really been growing lately with everything going on, and I very much appreciate all of you guys that are doing that. But let's get more people here. Let's get more people here to be annoyed about the channel and everything it is that I'm doing. So, yeah, that's a deal, people. I appreciate you. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Let's look, I'm about to go on. I'm leaving tomorrow morning for Madison, Wisconsin. So that means stuff is probably about to go haywire. Florida State, I'm sure, will be in the Big Ten and the SEC at the same time by the time I get back on Sunday. So anyway, take care. I will talk to you all soon.